What's up, everybody? It's your boy T here from Tamer Viking Podcast. I got a real cool episode today because I have a real special co-host today, Kyle from All In Survival.
Yo.
I figured I'd bring him back onto the pod to say what's up and to interview my man here, Vance. Say what's up, brother.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah, all right. So, dude, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you at the shop, by the way.
Yeah.
And I had to bring you on as soon as I started hearing about kind of what you do.
I was looking pretty rough, wasn't I?
You were. You definitely had a little bit of blessings. You had some grow back now, so this isn't how it's supposed to look.
He did great.
Thank
you.
you.
Great.
Thank you, my brother. It's great enough to get him onto the podcast and start chit-chatting. So, my man, remind me about what you do. Tell me about your title.
So I work in emergency management for the state of Washington, and the long and short of that is that we coordinate between the military department and the state of Washington, i.e. the governor. So
that is why I brought my man here. As soon as he started saying military stuff, blah, blah, it triggered something in me. I had to bring on my military buddy here to kind of do this podcast. So what,
it sounds pretty cool, though, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. The title it flows.
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of sitting and waiting. It's kind of like when I think about what I try and tell people, you sit around and you wait for the disasters to happen. And Kyle and I were talking about this a little bit earlier about the Cascadia subduction zone, and that is for Washington and Oregon. That is like the big earthquake fault, and that's what most of the large volume of the preparedness activities are centered around, whether it's FEMA or the state of Washington, the planning, the military department. They do a lot of planning around that subduction zone. They call it Cascadia Rising, by the way.
Subduction zone?
Subduction zone.
And Cascadia
Rising.
Right. Have you ever heard about stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Even the rest of the preparedness communities across the nation, they kind of watch that because it's like having with the San Andreas Fault about 50 miles off the coast, and it's in a weird position to where if it triggers, it's going to send a huge wave towards Seattle and Olympia and Tacoma area, and there's a lot of preparations going to have to go into that.
We definitely want to get into all those preparations. All the preparations. Just so you know, while you were talking, I took a sip of this.
Oh yeah.
And wow.
It's good.
Wow. Thank you for bringing the bottle, by the way. That's like I appreciate that,
Oh, no worries.
That's love for sure.
Literally,
what are we drinking? Just
literally, I asked the guy at the liquor store. I was like, all right, so what kind of liquor do we got, or what kind of whiskey? I prefer whiskey. I like bourbons. I like whiskeys. It could be a Scotch whiskey. It could be an Irish whiskey. It could be an American whiskey. But anyway, long story short, I asked him about what it would, what kind of whiskey would be good for a conversation like something like this, right? And so he turned me on to this Isaac Bowman. It's got a port barrel finish. So you taste a little bit of plum, a little bit of the sherry cask. You taste some of the cinnamon notes, and it's got kind of like that cashew nut taste. So
it's all there.
there's a lot of different flavors going on, and it's smooth. I don't like those choppy whiskeys.
No, that is so mine now has been watered down. I guess I put a little too much ice. Let me actually get a little bit more so we can do a proper cheers here.
Absolutely.
And you also brought another one, which thank you for that. What was that one?
So that's Jefferson's. I don't know as much about that one, only because you try and do a little bit of research on some of the things that you're bringing to your host.
Yeah, for sure.
So at the end of the day, that's gonna be a little more of a woodsy taste.
Yeah, this is sweet.
Yeah, this is gonna have more of that sweet dessert taste as opposed to a wood.
I could find that being very dangerous. Because it's so sweet, so smooth.
It'll sneak up on you.
You gotta prepare just for that. There's some prepping that needs to be done.
I know I didn't do my prepping on the last.
And to that note, I would say, may they not sneak up on us. Right? Cheers, guys.
Yes.
So I know that it took me a couple tries to get that intro right. Because what I didn't tell you was that this is my first podcast episode back in about 4 or 5 months. Okay. So I was doing the barber school stuff, and I realized that doing the recording and the editing and all that was really starting to take over my barber school mindset. And that's a really big deal to me, because without that, none of this happens without that.
Right.
So I took a little pause on the podcast, and you were the one that kind of inspired me to get back. Right. This conversation inspired me to come back. So this is my first one back. So I apologize.
You're welcome.
The intro, thank you. The intro is pretty much the only thing that goes scripted. Everything after that is kind of just like this conversation thing. So that's why now it's gonna flow.
Absolutely.
So, Kyle, any leading questions to kind of?
Oh, geez. Now I'm on the spot.
Right.
Let's
so
go.
my question that comes back, obviously, Washington State has put a lot of money and effort into preparedness for that particular event. Is there something that jumps out at you that is like in the second spot?
Honestly, I would say it'd probably be fires. Yeah.
You did mention that in the.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fires, especially on the east side, where you're talking a high desert in Washington State. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty dry. You got tumbleweeds and you got dried out trees and timber. Sure. Temperatures over there will reach 100, 105, maybe 110 in the summers, like when you get down in Yakima and further into Tri-Cities area.
I assume once a fire reaches your level where you have to react, that it's probably a really big fire, not just like a normal little house fire. We're talking like state dangerous fires where there's like a danger of multiple people, or like a single family house fire. You understand my question?
Yeah.
So
at what point do
you get called?
Management get involved?
Timber fire is obviously different than a brush fire. Brush fires usually burn fast and burn out pretty fast. But a timber fire, it can go on for days, because you got these hand crews that we send out, and they assist the Department of Natural Resources and the Forestry Service. And then you have also the other firefighters that come in from other states. They're contract workers. Some of them are smoke jumpers. Some of them are guys that just come in and do contract work, and they go to the fires and make their money and then go do other things.
Yeah. Right.
So I've seen a lot of guys. Before I got involved in all this, I actually was working for 2 different ski resorts, and we had a lot of people that would either instruct or work at the ski resorts, and then they go off in the summer, and they would be a guide on a river, or they go and travel, or they go bouldering, or rock climbing, or any number of outdoor activities.
Seasonal things.
Seasonal work,
that's
and
cool.
That's their lifestyle. A chosen lifestyle at that, but that's
until they have
kids. Yeah, right.
You settle down and do what you gotta do.
Are we shifting gears into family mode on that?
Not necessarily.
No, I'm really trying to dig into this.
We already hit that, actually, I think.
Well, the family.
What do you mean? In what way?
What's that?
In what way?
Well, I wanted to say that as a family men, taking charge of our families and making sure that preparedness is part of
the daily life.
Yes. That's difficult. That's really hard wearing one of these, that you have to kind of like force that subject. Mm-hmm. And it's different for me, my situation than it is for him. But at the end of the day, it's still that takes that push.
My wife's gonna kill me for telling this story, but I'm gonna tell it. So, in that vein of preparedness, you try and get your family members to familiarize themselves with the equipment that you have and the equipment that you use, right?
Of course.
Doesn't matter if it's a radio, a pistol, or a rifle. It could be a flashlight. How does a flashlight work? When you bump it 3 times and you got the strobe light, now it's a different type of flashlight, right?
Good point. Yeah.
But you gotta know what your equipment is. So one day Danny comes out. She comes out of the shower, buck-ass naked, and I throw the shotgun at her on the bed. Yeah, and literally I throw the dummy rounds at her, and I was like, the glasses just broke. The dogs are barking. You hear somebody coming in. What do you do?
What did she do?
So mad at that.
She's upset. But we love this kind of shit. That's what's funny. I wish my wife would do something like that. I wish my wife would wait till I'm butt-ass naked and throw my AR right on my lap. And I'm just like, get into action mode.
That's...
They don't do that. Go ahead.
But that's the reality of how fast things can happen.
1,000,000%.
And, you know, it's funny to say that, you know, I tricked her into racking the shotgun a couple of times and pretending like she killed somebody. But it took her forever to get that up to that point, right? It took, I don't know, probably, I would say 45 seconds to a minute because she was like fumbling with the shotgun and wasn't quite doing things right. And she's like, and then she has the gall or audacity to ask me, how do you do it again?
Like, now you ask once you're naked with a shotgun in your hand. Now you ask how to use it.
And I'm not here, supposedly, quote unquote.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the whole preparedness idea is that you don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And that's why, you know, whether you conceal carry a knife. I saw you guys take your concealed carries out earlier, and so on I have a belly band, but I have a flashlight in there.
Oh, it's like a whole
I have a knife. Well, and it's comfortable.
What kind of knife you carry? Just out of curiosity. I gotta ask.
I got two different knives. Okay. One's a forward assist, like you push a button and it pops out the front. Okay. But it has a glass breaker on the back, which is important, right?
Is it Microtech?
That's a good question.
Marfion.
Well, so here's the deal. I got it.
All respect to the man, Marfion.
And all respect to the knife guys out there. I got it as a gift for my birthday last year.
Oh,
so
it's a tool.
Yeah. So and I like it.
I would say it's art though too. Arguably.
It can be, but that's a knife guy speaking.
Fair.
The second one that I carry, and this is more for the what if scenarios, is a karambit.
Ooh.
So
he's a big karambit guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love watching Doug Marcaida videos. I love watching.
Stop it! I knew this was the one.
Forged in Fire. I mean, anything.
I have a TV in my shop dedicated to Forged in Fire.
It just rolls.
It just loops all the seasons.
That's my newest one. So I keep it on me all the time. Yep, a little tiny, and it is bright.
Golly!
Hello.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That packs a punch. Rechargeable, I assume.
Rechargeable.
So what brand or what?
Yeah, how do I plug this?
It's a no burn. You just hold it for 3 seconds on the tap, and then it'll turn off.
I see.
And you can go down, and it'll go one step lighter if you want.
Does it have a strobe mode as well?
It does have a strobe mode. I think it's three taps.
See, and that's the type of EDC stuff that you wanna carry. You don't want to carry.
It's so
a big
small
bolt.
that it's easy enough just to throw in there.
Yeah.
Is that Spyderco?
That's Spyderco.
I know my knives, boy. Just by a quick little, I see it like that.
But if they're too big,
see that?
You won't carry it. So
agreed. You just leave it. You think it's cool because it's tactical, but then you never fucking use it. You never carry it.
Won't wear it. So that's the hardest part. I'm still not a huge fan. I mean, day to day, I wear a firearm on my hip outside, regular duty belt, but I'm not a fan of concealed carry. I never have been. I don't like it. But
does anyone, or is it just
because it's uncomfortable? It makes me feel like less like when I wear.
Let me see your tattoo.
Which one? This one?
Is that Molden Lab? Oh!
Yeah, and this one is.
You were wearing a Real Tech shirt when I saw you, I think, right?
Yeah.
At the shop when I cut your hair.
Yeah. So this has Alpha.
I'm so sorry to change, but that was cool.
On the back side, it's got the Omega. Yeah. I won't show it too much, but anyway, so it has the different symbols. One for my mom, one for the Marine Corps, one for my son, and one for my daughter.
Sick. I love that. Sorry for the, but that just caught my eye. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You don't like concealed carry. You were saying you don't like concealed carry too much. And he said why.
I used to
and that's where it stopped.
Body carry with my bag all the time. I preferred that, especially with the type of Veritech bag where you can zip and pull real fast. It's got a big tab on it. It's designed for that. But
so it's got some sort of quick release or
on the back side, So you just slide it to your front and zip it and pull. But I do it because I'm convinced that it's needed. It's a have to. I don't enjoy it. but it is. I've been a firearms guy my entire life.
Okay, I gotta ask a question. Do you guys carry blowout kits?
I always carry I've got a tourniquet and everything in the bag.
Yeah.
Got a full blowout kit.
So here's the thing. That's where I'm lacking. My medical, like I have it, I carry it, but I'll be lying if I said I carry it on my person at all times. It's in my car. I got one on my little chest raise and stuff, and like I got one on my buttstock of some stuff. But as far as like having like an ankle kit that pulls out into a full blowout kit,
even a belt, if you continue those
little ratchets.
Whether it's a ratchet, belt, or if you got a leather belt and you just put more holes in it, it can become a tourniquet.
Ratchet belt into a tourniquet?
It's always been that way, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wait,
so that's all.
Does everyone know this except me?
Apparently.
Let's get you up to speed on your medical.
We're gonna edit that part out.
I thought this was an impromptu conversation.
Yeah, wait a second. Hold on now.
Everybody's got their thing, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody's got their thing, and they focus on one particular item.
But that's the beauty of it, is that it's not, oh, I got to carry this, and this. So, like here in the hot weather, I would imagine that you guys would probably have, either a life straw or some sort of, like in your go bag.
Yeah,
because you're going to hit puddles and ponds that are drying up, especially out here in the desert. Same thing in Washington. It rains a lot, so we got a lot of.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the water situation out like in Washington?
We're
dire out here, right?
It's pretty good. Yeah. You'll walk a couple miles and you run into something, a river, a stream,
in Washington, the number one issue is hypothermia.
Oh.
If you get stuck out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to die of thirst. Mm. But if you can't find shelter and get dry, you're gonna start down a path.
If you're wet and you got wind and wet, you're sucking.
You're in a spot where that's the number one issue. I mean,
I don't know that would be the number one, but I definitely agree that's going to be kind of your top priorities to keep stuff dry in Washington State, Western Washington specifically.
Actually, going back to the Washington State, going back to all that in your job, what would you say the craziest or most intense time you've been called out where you've had to do your job? Fires? COVID?
No.
Emergency? How did that?
So let's talk about that for a couple seconds.
I would love to get into this actually.
Because COVID actually presented all kinds of chaos. You have the medical chaos. When I first heard that we had this pandemic, it put a little fear of God in me. I'm like, all right, here we go. Monkeypox or whatever we got going on.
Of course. Right? Didn't we all? I
called
called you right away.
Not a ton of people know that Washington State had some of the first deaths. They all came from in an elderly community in Washington, and it's because of the Asian community so large there.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge Asian community in Seattle, Bellevue areas.
So how was your guys' lockdown scenarios out there? Was it pretty tense?
I mean, the governor is the governor. I will say that I don't like him.
The damn cricket again.
Oh, do we got a special guest? So we got a special guest.
Can you go tap something?
We got a special guest.
Hit knock it, throw it.
And it's
stupid cricket's been pissing us off this whole time. It's behind the refrigerator over there. Anyways,
but there he goes.
Yeah, see,
there you go.
Man, when you pull up.
You might have to stand over there. So the audio video guy is definitely taking one for the team here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jonathan's earning extra dollars right now.
Make sure we're gonna put your information in the link below. Anyways, all right. He got the cricket action and he be recording. That's why. Go ahead.
So, first off, you have the medical issues, right? Mm-hmm. You got everything from they set up all kinds of different. We'll call them MASH units because I can't think. CASH, so the casualty units that they were in preparation for all the people that were going to be quarantined, right? Mm-hmm. So they went and did that at the Safeco Field and a couple other areas in Washington State in anticipation of all that. So that was one really good example of how the National Guard responded in that scenario. But then it started to snowball because it wasn't just assisting with building those sites. It was then testing people, Then it was when the injections came out, they started injecting people. Then it was the food banks. Then it was fraud. So we had part of our intel community. They participated in dealing with the fraud issues. People
fraud.
taking advantage. So
of the government check fraud system.
Of the government checks.
PPE or something. What it was, one of those checks where you get free money.
You get free money.
Yeah,
well,
you
free
get free money, and then you can
somebody
sign
else's money.
Yeah.
So for the state of Washington,
Free his money.
All right.
Give me your
Hey,
tax
free all money.
I'm a taxpayer, so I guess
hey, are we all?
I guess it's my money, huh?
Getting some of your money.
But my point is that there's all these different areas that start getting affected. So summer of 2020 and 2021, we had back-to-back fire season on top of that, and then flooding and some other issues along the way. So as far as our office is concerned and in the coordination effort, it was quite interesting to see all the wheels turning, because you had all these emergency functions that were activated for the state, and they were all doing different things to include the military department. They all had different roles. There was a lot of information, and then to capture that information, that's a whole nother thing. So my boss is big on capturing information, so that not only can we analyze it for what it was, did we do good? How can we do better in the future? But it was also one of those things where, you have the state of Washington then needs all this information so that they can start paying out the monies that are coming from the federal side to the businesses and the individuals in the state. So, I would say COVID was probably the biggest and busiest of any operation that I've seen since I've been there, since about 2015.
Did you see any real emergency during COVID?
I would say that's debatable, because as what we haven't talked about is on the military side, I'm an all source analyst. All source
of what?
Analyst.
All sorts of what?
All source.
Source.
All sorts of analysts.
All sorts of analysts.
I was like, all sorts of what? all source analysts.
SOUR.
So looking at Instagrams, looking at media coverage, looking at all the
and then that's
channel stuff.
I think we all kind of, as preppers being a generic term, but as somebody that wants to lead their family and be prepared, and then have
the distinction,
the ability to back up what you're saying, right? Because you can say, I got guns, but do you know how to deploy them? Yeah, I got food, but do you know how to cook it? Do you have enough propane, or do you not have enough log splits so that you can have your campfire? Then how do you protect it? Do you have your house fortified? And these are all things, again, and I know I'm speaking your language, but you got to start somewhere in that whole preparedness thing, and you have to have that end goal in mind.
Where would you recommend someone starts in preparedness? Just out of a quick little
a 2-week plan and a to-go bag.
That's exactly pretty much where I started. So
that's what you told our people to start.
When we did our little video, I talked a little bit about the fact that I didn't know anything. I was obviously military, but I didn't know anything about preparedness. Spending the 2.5 weeks in Katrina, I saw some things that I didn't even see in Baghdad. Like, things were severely ugly, and these being Americans and people that I was like, oh, this could be my family.
This could be your back door.
This literally could be it. And so I came home like with a fire under my ass. I was like, oh, we need 3-day bags, 72-hour bags. We need this, we need that. We all need it. And I was trying to get all the family members, and I was getting a lot of pushback. And I finally just decided, I guess I'm just going to have to do that for them, whether they know it or not.
Oh,
And I just did.
And here's going down the rabbit hole, because once you start seeing the deficiencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start with, okay, I got a plan for 2 weeks, and I've got, I don't know, your to-go bag. I call it the go-home bag, because literally you're gonna throw that sucker on your back, and it better have everything that you think you need, right? And it's even evolved to this day. Like, I went and picked up a pair of
universal keys.
Well, the universal keys, I can't. Yes.
No, the
I
vice.
Just that.
I can't think of
chain
it.
cutter.
Yeah. Bolt cutter.
That's a universal key.
Yeah, of course. That's the key to
But
life.
I mean, it's only about a foot and a half long, and it fits nicely in my pack, right? So it's something that I can, if I had to go past a barrier, for whatever reason, I can go past that barrier.
Yeah, you can deploy that.
It's better than trying to climb that fence.
Well, especially if they put the concertina wire on top of it. Just saying.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I'm getting out of it has evolved. So I went from just having like a pair of underwear, an extra t-shirt, and a jacket, and some socks, because I want to keep my feet dry, right?
Yeah.
To now I got a first aid kit. Then I added communications. So everybody in the family has a handheld CB radio.
Yeah. Okay. Smart communications.
Yeah, and
combos,
you got the small antenna that reaches out to about 2.5 miles, and then you have the extended that goes up to 8 to 10, depending on your line of sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start adding these little things, but then it starts making the bag heavier and bigger, and you're like, all right, so if I had to pare this down, what exactly would I take on a trek to get back to the house, so that I can then regroup with my family,
right?
And then sharing that plan. You and I were talking about this earlier. You have to have somebody that's on board, right?
Oh,
you have to have somebody that's on board. So, and I told the story about my wife coming out of the shower, throw a shotgun at her. She knows that that's my mentality, but she also knows that if I am not teaching her, then I'm the one that's at fault for not leading that scenario of the family.
Well, that's very true. We have to take that full accountability as the masculine leader, like role in that household,
and it's tough, especially as you get older.
Yeah.
I don't want to go roll around in the ground with some 20-year-old, right?
Oh yeah.
I'll pull out.
Distance is my friend.
I'll pull out the less lethal options. Speaking of, I was going to tell you a story about my daughter, right?
Okay. Hold on real quick. I want to get really quick.
Okay,
I just want to ask you one question, and then we'll go into that.
Okay.
How many kids you got? Because I've heard you talk about your wife. But
I have 2 kids.
Two
and
kids.
They're from
Boy, girl?
I have a daughter from a previous marriage and a son from another previous marriage.
And how old are the children?
24 and 14.
Okay, now I want to hear the story about that. I want to get that clear, because we keep talking about family and stuff, but I don't even know what the family dynamic is.
His is the big.
So this is
herd.
I got the sports team family. I got the 5 kids.
I was gonna say, how many kids total you got?
5.
And what's their age ranges?
So my oldest is 10, and my youngest is 4.
I was gonna say 4.
Ooh, you're good.
Did you think about this?
So yes,
he just fell in love. He didn't care
about
kids.
Yeah.
Obviously,
it's
gotta be like a
it's the
pretty
blended
awesome
family,
woman.
blended family situation.
Okay.
Traditional, your traditional. But we don't gotta get into my situation.
Okay.
Now he's uncomfortable.
No, I love it. The truth is, we have the whole 5 kids.
Sure.
That's a whole lot of prepping. That's a whole lot of planning.
Oh yeah.
I pushed real hard on that guy when you got that many kids.
Oh yeah, he's
Where's your food? Where's your
He
food?
is.
Where's your food?
Yes, he does. Text me all the time. You've been prepping. You've been putting stuff aside. When are we gonna get some buckets together? Which we still gotta do. I want to record a video.
Bags and bags of
We got to get him on to record that, so we could actually put that on the channel. I want to put that on my channel. But okay. Daughter story.
So that's a mental note to self.
Yeah, right.
All right, so we were flying out here, right? And talking about the EDC stuff. My daughter has a thing of mace, right? And I've taught her how to use it.
She left.
Okay, no, wait. There's more. There's more. Okay, so from Washington out here in Las Vegas. So I told my daughter, I was like, put these in your check-on bag, right? So I had my little pocket knife, and she was supposed to put her mace in that bag. So we show up, and of course we're in the TSA line, and what are they doing? They're like, whose bag is this? I'm like, it's mine, but it's got a bunch of girly stuff in it, you know.
Yeah.
And so he pulls out the knife, and he's like, what do you want me to do with
That's
it?
girly stuff, huh?
I was like, just toss it, I guess. I told him I carry a Kershaw assist. It's only about, I don't know, 2.5 inch.
Little flipper.
Yeah, a little flipper.
But
with
it has an assist.
Flip assist, right?
Kershaw's
And that's just a good utilitarian knife for me. I like it. It's small, compact, like we were talking about your flashlight.
I hope that's what we were talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Your flashlight? No. It's small.
One shot, one kill, bro. Hey, talking about my flashlight.
Okay, well, we can talk about beards now, too.
Pause.
I'm going to keep mine under 2 inches. That's part of the job.
And here's the irony about my beard, right?
Wait, what?
Okay. I'll finish the story on
yes,
the
hold
daughter.
on. TSA daughter, girl parts girl stuff in your.
So I claimed the bag, right?
Okay.
And we were walking away. I was like, Josh, why didn't you put that on your check-in bag? She's like, well, I didn't know. And, of course, you get the 14-year-old.
Yeah.
I know, Dad. I know. And then I don't know.
Yeah, they know until they don't know.
Right. Yeah. But she lost my knife for me and some pepper spray. So, unfortunately, I don't have any EDC out here in Vegas outside of some whiskey, I guess.
You're not staying out here for too long, right?
No, I'm just staying out here till this Friday. I might extend. It kind of depends on the family situation. Yeah. We talked about that earlier.
I'm sorry to hear about all that. I hope everything works out.
It will, and I'm kind of just on standby. On God's time. There we go.
That's fair.
I'm on God's time.
It's the only time you can really be on at the end of the day.
So,
when it's all said and done, family's number one. So.
That's true. That's why we do all this.
Yep.
Man.
So.
Kyle, you got anything?
Yeah.
You've been a little hush.
Well, he's been sipping his whiskey.
Haven't we? It's feeling nice, That's a good
This
feel.
is a really good whiskey. I'll go back to the guy and actually tell him thank you. I like trying new whiskeys because it just expands your horizon a little bit.
Sure.
And then, because it's a sipping whiskey and not a shoot. You want to shoot whiskey? Let's do Jack Daniels.
Bourbon, bullet.
Jack Daniels.
Yeah,
unpopular opinion, but I enjoy shooting bullet rye. I mean, not many people say that, but it was a birthday.
Well, rye, they all have
It's sharp, but it was my birthday. No, it was my first bachelor party.
I've been to both of his weddings.
Yes, he has.
So this is actually a good friend.
This is my boy. This is like I would say
15.
I would say my big brother almost. Like what I mean?
That old.
No, my real big brother isn't even that older than me. So
are we gonna play that card? Who's the oldest in the room?
I'm not. I don't gotta play that card. He's the youngest.
2 weeks and I turned 47.
Well, then I got all y'all beat.
Where are you at?
50.
50.
Yeah, 50 years old.
50.
Well, come. I keep telling Danny. I'm like,
are you gonna come back and see me before you go back?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I gotta get you going.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't mind looking good for Danny when I show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This time she can throw a shotgun in your lap. You know what I mean?
Oh, she can just play with mine.
She's gonna be bad.
She's not gonna watch this. Ladies don't watch podcasts.
Do
women watch podcasts?
I asked my wife to watch the one that we did before.
She won't do it.
And I was like, did you watch it? And she's like, oh yeah, I watched it.
She's like, what's your favorite part?
What's your favorite part?
How much? She's like, oh, I moved it forward a few times.
I saw mouths moving.
Yeah, they don't care that much about this kind of stuff. And it's funny because you can't get them to.
No,
I don't know what it is.
When we were dating, she built her own go bag. We went camping all the time.
I
taught her how to shoot. She can legit hit targets at 600 meters with the rifle. I got her a CCW. I mean, she has all that stuff. And then the little man showed up, and it just kind of all went straight to
But see, in man logic, doesn't that change? Because when the kid comes, you're like, fuck, I have to prep harder. Take care of this kid. There's so much to do right now.
Yeah.
Like, how does that not?
She's like, nope, I gotta take care of this kid right now.
Is it not interesting though? Here's my only gripe. So luckily, my new wife is very, very cool with prepping. So I'm very blessed with that. But it's like, I don't understand how a lot of them, they'll say, don't prep, or you're wasting your money on preps, or blah, 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 or blah, 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 right? But then as soon as anything happens, power outage, knock at night, bump in the dark, they expect you to be able to sit there and handle it.
Yeah.
Then they complain.
Go to the panel and flip the switch. Will you take the flashlight outside and see what that noise is? Will you?
Mm-hmm. It's the truth. It's the truth. There's a loud bang outside. We have to go handle it, right? Yeah. But that pistol that we grab by our nightstand with that tack light on, it's gonna help us see at night. I guarantee 98% of men's wives complained about them getting that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because
$80 on it.
Right? Or you're on the street and someone says something slick to your lady. Now you gotta put them in a freaking Kimura or something weird like that, or rear naked choke them. Right? And then your wife gets mad at you because you go to jiu-jitsu classes or Muay Thai classes.
I can't
like,
remember.
Golly.
You're right. You did all this.
You can't get them on.
Have you figured women out yet?
No. I'm about. So I'm 30.
There's no figuring them out.
I'm 33. Hold on. I'm 33.
Okay. All right.
2 marriages.
I'm on my third.
I'm on my third too.
I'm on my second.
Hey,
there's like 18 marriages amongst us.
That just means we keep getting better.
37 kids and 18 marriages amongst us. The 3 of us.
That's a whole lot of marriages. Like a whole golly.
Wow. Okay.
We're a damn circus act.
I only got 2 kids that I know about.
That you know about.
I said 37, and there's the others right there.
Okay, I was just curious. So then he's out of it. So any marriages? No marriages. Okay, so it's just us.
He's probably sitting back there listening, and he's like,
is this what's gonna happen when I get old? I'm gonna be sipping whiskey.
He's like, I'll take the whiskey, I'll take the guns, and I'll just omit the women.
That's what most of the young guys are doing now. They just skip over the.
Interesting that you would say that.
What's that called? There's some.
Well, they
just
there's a
men going their own way.
MGTOW. They're like, it's just too much drama.
So
there's my own money. I'll do my own thing.
There's an opposing, I think, angle to that MGTOW, and that's passport boys or bros. I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology. Where you on purpose go find a woman from another country.
Talk to somebody
today about am 1,000,000% on board. My wife, she's from the Middle East. She's only been out here for like 6-7 years, maybe. She's still very traditional, and that is like the most beautiful thing in the world. And I regret never passport boying it from day one.
And that's kind of where most guys that want to have that long-term relationship go, because the women here in the U.S., they think they're all that in a bag of chips. So, what was that podcast that you were talking
Fresh
about?
Fresh and Fit.
Shout
out Fresh and Fit.
Shout out Fresh and Fit.
God,
love watching those guys tear those girls apart. Because here's the deal. Yeah, I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not to the girls. I'll get to it here in 2 seconds.
First we drink.
Right. First we drink. So it's not that the girls are bad.
Wow. I feel it all through my tinglies. You know what I mean?
So your fingers? Is that what you're saying?
He's talking about his flashlight.
All through the area.
Yeah, you feel it in your flashlight. Got it. I can't help you there, buddy. So, these girls, it's very interesting to me that these girls will call themselves a 10, and they know that, they know if they looked in the mirror in any way, shape, or form, they'd realize that a 10 isn't necessarily the outer beauty as much as it is the combination of both. So if you have
Combination of both. What?
I'm going there.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
going there. Combination of both. So if you have a girl, let's say she's 60, 80 pounds overweight, right? And she calls herself a 10, and she's got an attitude like she's got a 10, like she is a 10. She ain't gonna attract. She's not in a position, and it's fortunate or unfortunate for those girls that figure this out early. But she's not in a position to attract somebody that is going to be that 10 with her. Right?
100%.
So, like, you look like you're fit,
Try.
You look, you got your thing going too, right?
That's love. Thank you for trying. Thank you.
Yeah.
He tried to find some.
He's fast as fuck, by the way.
On sprints. Oh.
If he draws a knife, you're done.
Well, and
I'm running or shooting him. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I would never pull a knife like this. I know you'd be. No.
Knife.
Oh, so, let's remind me to come back to the Markida video, or excuse me, Doug Markida video, where it's gun versus knife, and I can't.
I already know Doug Markida with Instructor Zero.
Instructor
Zero.
I
love that series.
Remind me to remind him to talk about the Doug Markida.
Yeah.
And Instructor Zero.
All right. We'll do this circle thing.
Yeah. Right.
Anybody got a notepad here?
No, he's the.
This is all off the cuff right now.
He's
so
the mental Rolodex. Wait, back to.
Yeah, let's bring it back. Let's
thought
bring it
rockets.
back. So women in general,
there we go.
if they want to be.
Shout out MTR. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, you know MTR. Okay, perfect.
So if they want to be an attractive part of the scenario, or they want to attract somebody that's their equal, they got to put in the work too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just show up and say I'm a 10.
What do you? But what's that work for you though? What is that? What do you consider that?
Case in point, going back to the silly story about throwing a shotgun at Danny, right? That's somebody that's working with me, not against me.
Mm-hmm. That's your squad. That's like your firing team right there, technically.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And, I force her out of her comfort zone. I'll give you another scenario. We have a motorhome, a Class A motorhome, right? So we're cruising down the road. Who do you think drives 90% of the time? This guy, right?
Of course.
So I tell her, hey, here's the what ifs. What if I can't drive? What if I had a stroke, heart attack, got hurt in the woods, whatever, and you got to get us back to the hospital? You need to know what your limits are with this 37-foot motorhome, right, and what the tail swing on it is, and is that going to be, are you gonna make that? Are you gonna make that corner? Yeah. Are you gonna make that corner? Can you stay in your lane at 55 miles an hour with the side wind, all that stuff? So I know I push her out of her comfort zone sometimes, but I feel like you have to.
100%.
And then the woman that responds to that, and that's just one small part of what I would say a total. Yeah, like a total package, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the looks. Are you attracted to the girl? Okay, yeah, I'm attracted to her. Then you have, are we pulling in the same direction financially? Is she going to be a drain on my pocketbook, or is she going to be somebody who's going to like?
They're always a drain, but they do bring in money. My wife technically makes more money than me.
Okay, so I was going to say
she works 24 hours a week.
As of right now, I'm gonna say Danny makes
per hour she makes
more money than I do.
But
I said, as of right now, Danny makes more money than I do. Woo-hoo. But here's the deal, and this is something that her and I subscribe to, is that I carried us in a point working 2 and 3 jobs sometimes, You got your reserves, you got your primary job, then you have a secondary job.
I got a good question. I have to ask this.
Okay.
You said you were, and I know I just out of ignorance completely on my end, okay?
Oh yeah.
You said you were for the state of Washington, what was it? Yeah, state of Washington.
State of Washington.
emergency management,
Yep.
history of military and dope shit like that. What does your wife do that she makes more than you?
Well, he works for the state, so technically, they don't really pay you that well. There's great benefits involved in working for the state, but you're not. It's like
that's a
for
good
me,
point.
Like,
Because go ahead.
I made more before I went back to work for Uncle Sam. I wouldn't say I make a wonder. I make a decent living, and when they take my time away from my family, they compensate me.
Okay, yeah.
So, but they don't care about my family. I'm the one who has to put my foot down and be like, no, I'm not doing overtime, or that somebody else can do that.
I think you could say that about any organization. You're gonna have people that care and people that don't.
Right.
You know, depends on which shop you're working in and who's in charge of that shop. Like historically, I've enjoyed working with my boss. Shout out to him. I won't say his name, but
shout out.
Hey, if you ever see this, know that I like you, and I still have that $1 bill that you gave me.
Hey,
It's an inside thing for sure. I gave him a shirt. So his philosophy when problems come in the door, his analogy, not philosophy. His analogy is that it's a screaming monkey, right? And it flings poo. And you want to get that monkey off your back as fast as possible. So that's his philosophy. Like
handle it right now.
Yeah. Basically, handle that shit right now. Let's get it to the proper department, the proper people, the proper whatever, and get that monkey off our back.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that philosophy. So I bought him a T-shirt. I don't know. That's probably been about 3 years ago. And it had a monkey on it with a big old cheesy grin, and it says "I fling poo." I loved it, and it's still sitting. It's still sitting on a like a cardboard placard where he takes. Yeah, it's on display in our shop. Yeah.
When I first got out of the military, there was the guys. I can't remember what the guys that were doing all the cool T-shirts, the Black Coffee, and then there was another company that was doing. Great T-shirts, but there was one that said the Trunk Monkey, and they actually did some videos. The Trunk Monkey gets out,
monkeys, yeah,
jumps out, and beats the crap out of him, push the button for the Trunk Monkey.
Oh my god, I actually didn't see that one.
Okay, now you're gonna have to look that up.
Maybe you can find the Trunk Monkey and put it on the overlay.
Yeah, just delay the podcast.
Trunk Monkey. Have you seen these? Have you ever seen?
I have seen coins. I don't know what this particular one represents.
Oh, explain it.
So this is a stress coin. It's solid silver.
Okay.
And it is a preparedness one. And
so does that mean that if you throw this out and I don't have it, I have to buy you around?
No, it's not a challenge coin.
Okay, it's not a challenge coin. Okay.
But it does say create, survive, and thrive. Right, and so it's my motto, and it's what I continue to think to myself. Now, when we were talking about having the wives on board, and my wife does know that at times I can spend more money than I probably should towards preparedness stuff. I try to keep it to a minimum.
Okay. So is this how you are going to teach men to justify their purchases?
Not necessarily.
No, it's a joke, man. But it's a joke.
What I do is I always tell her that the bills come first.
Oh, yeah.
The bills always come first. I will take care of the house. The kids needs the new clothes, the shoes. That all comes first. And then when that's done, I'm paying insurances. I'll pay the bills. And the insurance for preparedness is you have to put the time, the effort, and the energy into learning those skills, acquiring that gear, and knowing how to use it. So the most expensive thing in this last couple of years has been the truck. So the beast is
okay. I want to know
a video link somewhere up here.
The truck is a 2020 Dodge Ram.
Okay.
That has.
Are we talking like overland kind of style or esque?
It's an AEV basically.
Okay.
It's a clone of an AEV. Have you ever heard of AEV?
No,
so
but I'm going to go look it up.
40-inch tires, 83 gallons of fuel, and it It's got 1,000 miles of range. It's got complete 100% EMP protection on it. It's
so going down that rabbit hole again. EMP protection for your
CB
vehicle.
radio. It's got a ham radio. It's got so it's got enough stuff in the back. I don't believe in an actual get home bag, but what I believe in is having enough gear in the back of the truck that I could technically build 2 or 3 bags. I would pull it all out.
Sure.
Something happens and I gotta go on foot, whatever. Pull it all out, pull what I need for that particular task of getting home, and then take off. I can't take it all.
No.
I would love to, but I've got a little bit of everything in there, right? From tents to, mountain house and everything in between. But it's part of the style of preparedness that I've kind of gone through over the last 18 years. And
so you've been doing this for 18 plus
2005 was Katrina. By the time Katrina hit, I was already starting to get on board with the tactical and having a go bag type of thing.
Right.
But then I had a total fire under my butt after that.
Because you saw the
the
aftermath of what a disaster really looks like.
And what really scared me was not the fact that people didn't have food or water, or was dragging their kids through 3 foot of sewage-filled water to try and escape the city, was the fact that the gangs took over. The gangs took over, and we actually had interactions with gangs at night trying to push us out of the city, and we had to push back, right? So, and because we're National Guard at the time, they made us put these clips on our rifles that we could not select fire, because what they said was posse comitatus, we can't do police action against civilians. But the problem is what we were dealing with was straight gangs.
Yeah.
You could argue that those gangs are terrorists. You could argue that, and that we should have been able to they had AKs that were going full rock and roll. So,
but yet
we were outgunned in Katrina. So it is what it is. But when I got home, I recognized
it's your special guest, man.
I recognized that it is one of those situations where you have to take that aspect and take it serious. I mean, yes, you have to have food, you should have your water and all that stuff, but can you keep it?
That's when I said, do you have your house fortified? Because you could have all the food in the world and somebody run up on your house, and if they're well trained, and we know there are well trained men and women.
We've talked about
in the United States. You're either the wolf or the sheep, right?
Yeah.
And I have subscribed to the philosophy that if I have to, I will go after somebody else's stuff for my own preservation.
Right. I mean, if necessary, we've talked about that as well. But being prepared enough ahead of time to not have to go that route.
But again,
is a very important.
If somebody else is that, so here's the problem: is that Katrina, right?
Right.
People were desperate. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to turn. They didn't know who to turn to.
Right.
And so the National Guard comes in. They're the heroes of the day, but at the end of the day, you said there are gangs that are literally pushing back and with reports of gunfire in whatever area. You're like, okay, well, I guess we're not going into that area, and then you can't engage them to protect the citizens. So now the citizens are again vulnerable in their own house.
So here's the crux of that, and this is not something I take very lightly. But I saw people taking firearms away from people, right? You have a right to protect yourself. And here's exactly what you just said. Our commander would not allow us to engage those people during the nighttime. They ran the streets at night. We would bunker down, we would put guards in the thing, and so now, during the day, we're walking the streets and encountering civilians, and if they had a firearm, we would take it and send them towards the back or the rear and try and get them out of the city. The problem with that is that I didn't know enough in those days to understand that I was way outside of the bounds of the Constitution. I didn't recognize, and that's something I have to live with myself, that I was in the scenario. And this is why people worry about the government's response to a major catastrophe, is that the government's two different realms, right? One is, hey, we're here to help, and also we're here to make sure that we survive. The government survives, right? So they hunker down, and they're also going to be slightly afraid of the population.
You want to refresh?
I think I'm okay for now.
Okay.
But
trying to get you drunk, take advantage of you.
I'm already feeling it.
Pause.
And there's that fine line.
Is this a kid friendly podcast?
Not this episode. There's a few that will be, but not this.
Maybe the dog trainer.
Yeah, the dog trainer.
He was friendly.
He was very nice, but we still got pretty drunk.
Yeah.
At the end, he was pretty drunk too.
So here's the
There's going to be a link to that. That was a great episode.
Here's the beauty of having whiskey and supping with the guys of like mind, and a podcast for that matter. I love the fact that Joe Rogan will talk to anybody.
Oh yeah, about anything.
Yeah, dude. I have listened to his podcast for years, and at the same time, I'm like looking at all the different people that he's interviewed. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about geography? You want to talk about science? You want to talk about UFOs? You want to talk about UFC?
Like your DMT trip.
You want to talk about
another
dimension?
Bigfoot, astral projections, and the
You want to talk
response.
Politics, lunatics, wood ticks? That guy is like in the woods on this.
He's the best.
Yeah,
He's the best.
absolutely. Shout out to Joe Rogan. But my point is that that's the beauty of a podcast, is that you get the opportunity to talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different walks, right. And some of them are going to be famous, and some of them are going to be infamous. Like I can't. Gosh, there was a podcast that Joe Rogan did, and it was. We'll come back to it. Just let my mind simmer on it. I'll get the names, but it was they were talking about the geography of the world and the ripples of the high deserts here in like Wyoming, and how if you look at it from a satellite perspective, it looks like ocean shores, right? So when a wave comes in, it creates these ripples in the sand. Well, those same ripples are also present in the interior lands of the United States and across the world. And I was floored. I was like,
pole shifting.
No, we've talked about that as well.
That's the pole shifting. That's where they went with that, was that once the poles shift, the whole Earth shifts, and the oceans are no longer in the same place that they were, and they create desert is now underwater, and there's shorelines and.
Well, this guy, they had like a 3-hour conversation about this, and I was just enamored with the whole idea, because it explained a lot of different hydrodynamics, things that the water does to the earth and how it affects the earth. And that was the most interesting part to me, was just all the different I'm searching for a word, but I let the alcohol simmer again.
I know it's I'm at that point, I think too.
So my point is that you get the opportunity doing a podcast like this to talk to people from all walks of life, and your base knowledge every time you sit down and talk with somebody increases.
Agreed, 100%. And through that's the whole point of the podcast. Through that, my base knowledge increases, and through that, hopefully, their base knowledge increases, and then that's the whole.
Yeah, and then as
evolution, I guess.
As you become consistent in your interview processes, you're gonna find that more and more people want to come to your podcast, or that identify with what you're talking about, and then you're gonna find yourself with a bigger table, 4 or 5 mics, and
Couple
it's
cameras.
just a couple cameras,
can't
couple
wait for
camera angles.
Yeah.
Instead of having 1 light, you're gonna have 5 or 6, and everybody's
Why
gonna.
have 3 technically?
I
think it looks good for
No,
getting
yeah,
started.
Yeah, this is like my 4th episode.
I'm flipping
We've been
this shit,
tearing
but
it up.
my point is that again,
Gotta
you get
start
to
somewhere.
you got to start something, just like prepping, right?
Gotta
Just like prepping,
Yeah.
you got to start with something, and if it's interesting enough to the people that tune into your podcast, then it's gonna blossom. And
Right.
you gotta keep taking those interviews, and some are gonna be wins, some are gonna be losses, and at the point that you start winning, and other people see that, they want to be around. They want to be people in general, and this is going back to women, and how they fit into the relationship aspect of it. They want to be around strong male personality types, and it's not.
100%.
And it's not because you're a male chauvinist. I still open the door, right?
You'd probably get in trouble for that nowadays, honestly.
Not with my wife.
In Seattle, you're 100% correct. I would get in trouble for that.
Still do it.
With my wife, it's expected, right?
Yeah.
So
No, but of course for the wife, but I mean for to be like just a productive member of society and open the door for a random stranger woman. She's 98% is gonna turn out to be a Karen and be like, why did you open the door for me? I just can't.
Polite.
do you
Yeah,
guys
I know, but now it's like a problem.
Do you guys get that a lot out here in Vegas?
Not as much as you might think.
I've
sometimes.
kind of just been. I'm just kind of to myself when it comes to from around women or things like that. Just
Like
kinda,
social niceties,
essentially, I can see where I've never heard that term, but I can see where that term. It's something like that.
politeness. Social
I'm just
niceties,
polite,
whatever.
but I'm at a very bare minimum when it comes to females, things like that. I just kind of like out of safety for myself.
Who was that guy that did the interview with? Oh, God, this is where you start understanding that alcohol can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. It either is going to prompt a lot of
I
good
can't
conversation.
remember names when I'm not
I don't
drinking.
understand how the
So,
topic
long story-
flipped so.
okay.
I don't
Well-
even remember like the main topic we were on as far as we ended up on
Well,
prepping and like what's.
You
And
could,
women-
you could listen. You could take prepping as a philosophy and turn it into anything, right? Prepping could be something as simple as making sure the oil is changed on your car.
Yep.
You got a tune-up, and you have good tires.
Yeah, full gas tank.
Full gas
Contingencies.
Yeah.
Full
Prepping
gas
is.
tank.
I've said
Okay.
it a million times. Prepping is nothing but looking for potential pitfalls and finding contingencies.
I love
You
that.
just continually say, "Okay, I'm on my way to work. Do I have gas? Yeah, I have a check. Okay, I got all my stuff.
Yeah. Did I see a flat tire when I
yeah,
walked
yeah,
out to the
yeah.
car?
Just
And
check.
I only saw 2. I didn't do the full walk around, right?
Oh, yeah. Facts.
But yeah, it's just contingency plans, and
But-
I game it. I'm like, okay, I'm in this weird position, okay, and I'll be like, okay, and I just play it out, the scenario.
I like looking at the biggest
Go
person in the room and imagining, can I chop this guy down?
We all have that. I
That's
think.
a male thing.
Yeah,
That's
that is
not-
a
Well,
man. That's not a
that-
you.
so
thing. We
I'm
always
a-
just be that little up and down like.
Listen, I'm
Who said it? Like that's a one punch. That's a two. That'll give me a
I've
Right.
always had a
Right.
million little guys trying to fight me for no particular
But-
Well,
reason.
it's because you're large.
I'm 5'7". I'm not the tallest man in the room, right?
How tall are you? 6'8"?
No, I'm
7'7".
6'5".
6'4",
Like
6'5".
it's that off
yeah.
of 6'8".
Yeah.
Like I'm that far off.
So,
That's 4 inches, man. That's a lot.
well, think about it from my point of view. This is a David and Goliath moment, right? I'm gonna grab my stone and my sling, and you're
You're
gonna
prepped for
and,
this guy.
and you're gonna have your sword and your shield and your spear, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna say a prayer.
Distance is your friend. I
Yeah.
always say.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
teach that hand stuff. That's distance is your
Well,
friend.
and I said it earlier. I'm too old to scrap with anybody, right? I'm gonna break my back. I'm gonna gas out. There's so many things that as an older guy that you start thinking
You
about.
gotta keep remembering. Gotta keep remembering you're 50.
Hey, be nice.
No, that's not what I mean.
It's not
what
over.
I mean is no, because here's my thought. Because
you just,
I understand. Hold on. I'm 33.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like I don't know. I'm not like a great fighter, like the best fighter in the world, but like I don't know if I can get to a point or what age is that point. Maybe just the whiskey talking, but I don't know the age where I'm like, I would just stop worrying about that hand to hand.
Okay, so you don't stop. Here's the deal.
That's what, because like it's a constant thing. That's always.
You don't stop worrying about it, but you do start changing the tactics.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I like that. I can see that.
There's no funny games.
No, of course
as
not.
a young guy, you're gonna have speed on your side. You're gonna have stamina. You're gonna have strength. You're gonna have all those things.
Not me.
What the fuck is
Flexibility.
Look at my posture, bro. The whole podcast I've been trying to be like this. That'd be fuck, man. I don't even know how people sit like
flexibility.
like this. What's the new
what
posture?
I missed.
No, and that's my point. My point is, and you being an old gentleman yourself, not too far off.
I got a fake hip and a broken back. I'm old.
Yeah, but that's because
I've done.
But
lots
service.
of
This is what I'm saying.
You jumped out of planes.
You
and
changed the game based off of, or you changed the approach to the game based off of what you can and cannot do. Know your strengths and your weaknesses, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So if you know your strengths and
Your
your
pain
weak,
points.
you know your strengths and weaknesses. Distance is your friend.
I miss jiu-jitsu every day.
The smarter you put your son in
take
it,
my
by the
son-
way.
Until
And I can't do it anymore.
until you roll one day and you wake up the next day and you're
Can't
like,
move.
my back is so jacked up, and you're like, but I didn't roll that hard. You tell yourself mentally,
I can't do it.
you're like,
It's rough.
yeah, I can do this.
Nope.
You know, I did. So I told you to start off in the Marine Corps, right? So I
Mhm.
started off in the Marine Corps, went to Marine combat training, then ended up at each of my duty stations. I did American karate, right? And it was based off of the Marine Corps or whatever, and it was what was offered at the bases at the time, right? So I did that, and then I had a 17-year break in service. So if you can imagine 17 years from being a quote-unquote Marine and then coming back into the military and having an SF option, which basically means that I went into the Cav Scouts. So I had to do a stint with the Cav Scouts. And that put me in a combat, a combat arms scenario, which then qualified me for a chance, an opportunity at SF, and I did all that at 39, 40.
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
I was 27 and I didn't like it.
Well, and here you are competing against all these young kids. My best run time at peak was 13:45 for 2 miles. Now you might say that's great. Yeah, cool, great. I ain't gonna run that now. But it wasn't. So I got the opportunity to. So
I was fast as fuck once upon a time.
I'll just make the long story short. I took the opportunity. I didn't make it, but I learned a lot. Right? And so then I had, we talk, we haven't talked. I was talking with my aunt earlier about all this, where one door closes, another door opens, right? And sometimes you don't see the backside of the
peppercorn,
the experience, the
silver lining.
For lack of a better term, the hand of God kind of guiding you from point to point to point to point, right?
Yeah.
But I was talking with my aunt about that earlier, about having doors open and doors closed. So that door is shut relatively rapid, and we'll save it for another conversation. But the long story short on that is, it brought me to the all source analyst position. And our unit actually does a lot of stuff. I personally have not done the stuff that is afforded our unit, but our unit supports a lot of stuff with SOD P, first group, 19th.
SOGs and
Special Operations Group stuff. But we're connected in that arena, and it's interesting to me that it kind of came full circle. Like one door closed and said, "Oh, you're not gonna go SF." Okay, what else? You know, and I figured it out. I opened up a couple other doors, and because I had the scores to do whatever, I went through those schools and I got qualified, and you know, my military career is what it is.
Yeah.
But point being is that you're gonna have doors closed, you're gonna have doors open, and sometimes when you look back on it, you almost feel like there was a divine intervention that says, "Nope, you don't worry about that.
Yeah.
That's not your lane. That's not what you're gonna do." And then when you come over to the other side of that, or flip that coin, right? You do that 180, and you see something else that's like, okay, well, if this is supposed to be, it's supposed to be, right?
Attack.
Yeah, and then you attack it.
Day 11, by the way.
What was that?
I ended my selection on day 11.
There you go.
I twisted my knee real bad, and they asked me, "Are you injured or are you hurt?" And I said, "They said, well, if you're injured, you can go home. There's no problem. It's fine. If you're hurt, then wrap it up. Tomorrow morning, you got to finish your road march, and then our step out for tomorrow's road march is 06. So you'd have to be out there about 4:45." And I was like, okay. And I got out there at 4:45. I took about 100 meters, and the knee was just like, it was very much known that it was just not going to make it. And I was like, I'm gonna go back.
Yeah.
I gotta go back. And I went back to Hawaii. I was in 25th ID at the time. I went back to Hawaii, and I was with a beautiful woman at the time, and I went to air assault. I went to air assault school after my knee healed. I went to air assault school, and I got done with air assault school, and I got another opportunity to go back to the Q course, and I found out that she was pregnant.
And now you have a kid.
And no, and she didn't. She lost it. But she
lost
it.
Wasn't your kid?
But it was like one of those things where it was like, this action started to this action, and it was like decisions. And you talk to young men about not allowing women to dictate your actions when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, this is going to
I would
make
say
you want to
that's
go
one of
this
my
direction.
big mistakes, what you
Right.
just said.
The problem is that we all do. You don't learn that you've made all of these weird and bad decisions along the way because of women until you've gone over that mountain, and now you're on a different mountain, right? You can't change the past, but so I wanted to go back and go ahead and get that green beret, and everything in my mind. I mean, I was
Emotionally
running
and
a
mentally,
9:39 2 mile.
Damn, dude.
I mean, I was 190 pounds, 6'4". I was a cross-country runner. I was fast as hell. I would do a 12-mile road march in like 2:17, which is terribly fast. In the 25th,
I don't know. Obviously, I don't know much
in
about
the
that,
25th ID,
forte.
in the 25th ID, the select guys that I was competing against in that realm, in the 12-mile road march, was like, they were all Rangers. They were all already through, and I was cooking them. They couldn't keep up because I was just stupid fast, right? I put the rifle down low, and I go back and forth, and I was just gone. The thing is at some point something steps in your way, and the hand of God changes your direction, and it changes your direction.
Absolutely.
And so I feel
So you're feeling you got what I was trying to communicate, which is ultimately we're all here because of different events that have happened in our life. I came in because to your barbershop specifically because the experience that I had at another barbershop. I called them up. So here's your competition, right? Hey,
competition close to me?
Not far.
Okay.
I called him up and I was like, hey, do you guys do walk-ins? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, do you have any openings? He's like, well, all our chairs are full right now, but if somebody comes in, you might be second in line. I was like, all right, hey, thanks, buddy. Click.
Great customer service,
And then I saw this tapered Viking. I was like, tapered Viking. That sounds like my kind of place.
I like
and
that.
Then I step up in here, and I didn't know you were the owner. Little did I know that I'd be getting a cut from the owner, and like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I was looking pretty rough, and mostly because I'm dealing with family stuff, and I got I just like shaving, doing your hair, whatever, you
got shit to deal with.
But then Danny's coming out, so she came out on last Friday. And I was looking rough, and she's like, "Babe,
step up your game. Step your game up.
This is not what I got involved with." And I was like, "All right, well, let's go get a cut." And so
that's good.
Then I ended up here, and now all of a sudden here I am on your podcast. So
friends for life.
Yeah, right.
So and that's the crazy part to me. Earlier, you texted me and you was like, "Hey. Do you have anything you want to promote? This, that, and the other?" I was like, no.
I want to put something onto the,
I'm wearing your T-shirt.
Yeah, that's low. Can you show them the back?
Sure.
Is that a possible thing?
I don't know.
Maybe the other way.
Yeah.
You're so drunk. It would have been so much easier to go the other way. That's a cool shirt.
Really.
You don't think so?
There's a big bar right there.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, there's a bar right there.
That's true right there. I'm proud of it.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I want one of those shirts. I'm walking out of here with
So I got to tell you. And that was the other
1X,
part of the equation. So
I got you.
Here I am down in Vegas, and I'm looking for a couple of extra tank tops. And I come in here and I see this tapered Viking tank, and I see the tee. You remember?
Yeah.
So I was sitting in your chair, and I was like, "You sell tees too?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I'll take one of those."
For sure.
Man, that's love.
And honestly, it's quality, man. I like it.
Thank you, Green Valley.
Green Valley.
Yeah, Green Valley.
Is that who you guys go to?
Oh, that's who I go to for everything. Ida, Peter, they are the greatest. I mean, when it comes to this kind of stuff, they do all of my businesses that we work with, my family, my friends. They do all that. They're really good. I'm not even not sponsored nothing, but. I mean,
no sponsors yet.
No,
Green Valley, what's up?
No, they take such good care of me. They take such good care of all their clients. Anyone who works with them. I mean, but anyways, good. Quality all the time. We got some new merch coming up soon, so be on the lookout.
Sweet. There you go. You got a hoodie?
Not yet. It's coming.
How about this? Remember I told you. So, I got a question for both you guys, and
I hope.
Well, you're going to have an answer.
I hope.
So
the whiskey's got me.
No, this ain't that kind of question. So how did you guys, and I'm going to flip the script, now I'm interviewing, right? How did you guys come into the idea that you wanted to emotionally, mentally, and physically prepare yourself for something that may or may not happen? So T, go.
So
we'll go to you, Kyle.
So a little quick history so you understand. When I was younger, I had a very weird, odd obsession with ninjas.
Okay.
I know it's true actual ninjas, like feudal Japan. While most kids in schools were getting Like when most kids in school were getting toys and presents is like stuff like the traditional kid toys. I would be getting like ninja gear, like grappling hooks. Me and my friend Peter, shout out to Peter. He's
throwing darts.
Throwing darts.
Did you have what about throwing knives?
Oh my god! All that was my history.
I've lost so many wood stars, or not wood stars, but throwing stars in wood piles.
Yeah. No, so that was my history with that as a child. And then naturally, as you get older, you realize that the ninja stuff is kind of out of realism, out of the realistic outlook. So then you start looking into what's real, and the real ninjas you look into are like special ops guys and like that. Those are the real life ninjas. And with that comes the transition of guns and knives. So there's the history of my prepping. Now, I am at a sushi with my ex-wife.
Okay. I
have maybe a bug out bag just because the CDC says you have to have one, you know.
Yeah.
I have a couple FEMA, sorry, yeah. I have a couple little things here and there put aside, but nothing prepping like crazy mindset.
Right.
I'm eating sushi. Not with my ex-wife, I'm sorry. It was just with my old friend. Sorry, it was my old friend. And I'm eating sushi, and him and I are talking about guns specifically. That's where my brain was at. Weapons, guns, training, knives, things like that.
Yeah.
So he then says, what gun do you like? I say I like the AK-47. As a prepper gun, I was like, that's like my favorite. It's like, I know it's not as accurate, as precise. However, it's like for prepping, it's like a mud gun, blah, blah, blah. That was my explanation to him.
Yep.
And out of nowhere, this big burly 7'17" man pulls up. Next to me, he goes, I have to actually interrupt and ask you, and starts talking to me more about this situation.
So he challenged you.
In a sense, he saw me carrying. He already called it out as I was
printing.
I was printing as we were. As we were chit chatting, that's what he noticed automatically. He was like, okay, blah, blah, blah. So we start chit chatting about all that, and then we exchange numbers that way, and then we start talking, and then I start really seeing.
Plus years ago, this is how you guys met.
Oh yeah, I start really seeing what a prepper is, like really.
It's interesting.
I was like, whoa, bro, like this is. So I'm thinking my little mountain house bag.
Yeah. My aunt, who's super liberal, and when I say super liberal, yeah.
I feel like all aunts are super liberal for some reason.
Olympia liberal?
Probably beyond Olympia, but she lives here in I would just say Las Vegas area. Shout out to you, Aunt.
She ain't gonna watch this.
No, you're not.
2 hours into it.
I'm not gonna watch it. But she has all these preparations in her house, and she doesn't even know it. Like,
I agree. I see what you're saying with that. Yeah.
So I was talking with her here yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about the whole, right wing, left wing dynamic, right, and where our society's at today, and thankfully she agrees with me on some of these transgender issues and the weird shit that's going on. Okay, side note, we'll come back to that. She has vitamin, she has just shit stacked up. Toothpaste, vitamins,
reps. That's the way I see it. That my friend might say
food and dry goods.
How old is she?
72.
So she's basically saw the very tail end of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And so it's very normal for them to have 3 months of everything.
And the whole reason I'm out here is because of my grandma. So my grandma's 99.
Yeah.
And my aunt's 72. She is the baby of the family.
Yeah.
And there's six kids. 6 girls total.
Wow.
So yeah, could you imagine raising 6 girls?
No, it's crazy. That's our special guest over there. It's all right. It's not going to diminish
Jiminy Cricket, go away.
It's not going to diminish this one.
This has been.
I wanted to go full circle on one question, one thing. So
you haven't answered my question.
Oh, let's go back then. What is it?
So
prepper. That's right. Okay.
How did you get involved in prepping? And if I'm listening to our previous conversation, because I've just met you tonight.
Right.
Katrina had
that was it.
It had a profound impact on
Yeah.
what you would do. Or
so
would
I went
wanna
out there with a guard unit, military police, and we were there. We showed up on about 2 days after the levee had already broke. So by the time we got there, we were already 5 days into the emergency. 5 or 6. We dropped in on a helicopter on the top of the parking garage of the dome.
Oh, okay.
And because we're military police, they told us to bring all of our kit, which meant a full ruck, a full duffel bag, and then riot gear. So I've got everything kind of strapped, and we're coming off the helicopters. We got to walk all the way down, and
Dude,
I was shocked.
I'm laughing
people-
because I know exactly you're doing the
waddle,
shuffle,
the waddle,
the waddle,
full body
the
armor, the
shuffle.
whole thing. And I was shocked because the people started throwing food at us right
Oh,
away.
wow.
We got there, and they started yelling at us and throwing food at us, and they were legitimately suffering and pissed off, and they were in a bad spot. The dome was supposed to be the spot to go. The first night of the roof caved in,
Oh,
and
jeez.
it flooded, and all the water, the toilet stopped, and there was 20,000 people in there, and there were piles of shit in the
Jeez.
corners, and it was terrible. Like, it was a disaster
Oh, I
beyond
couldn't even
a
imagine.
disaster. And the food ran out, and we got there, and they were throwing these. They had brought these plates of food for people, but there was rotten food, and they were just throwing it at us. And so that started
it was
2
society's
weeks.
big fuck you is what it sounds like.
That started our 2.5 weeks of
Wow.
terrible drama, and I saw several bodies floating in the water. When we got to the convention center, there was a guy who had been killed trying to defend his daughter who got raped by 8 guys.
See, and as a
And
father,
so-
I mean, obviously, as a father,
He was dead, and she was.
Speaking of
Yeah, it was
crazy stuff
terrible.
like that, have you guys seen Sound of Freedom?
And I haven't yet. No.
I have. Wait. I don't want to move. That was a deep moment. I don't want to
It
brush
was
past
a
what he
deep
just said.
moment, but
Hold on. Go back to what you said. Continue on with that thought, because that was a pretty deep one. We can't just brush past that.
well,
So-
Sound of Freedom kind of brushes into or
Yeah.
transitions into, but by all means,
But
keep
yeah,
going
so
as
the-
what.
The drama was
affected
pretty
you?
bad, and like I said, I was there for the invasion of Baghdad. I was part of the push into
Sure.
the city, and as a police officer, they brought us in on Chinooks. We landed at the Saddam International Airport, and we started taking prisoners right away. There was bodies, and there was drama, and there was death all around us, but it affected me more in Louisiana than I think I'd ever seen, and in different ways, because I saw police officers with loot in the back of their vehicles.
Mm.
They were driving Cadillacs that they had stole off the Cadillac dealership. I saw
All because and you can justify
every-
this stuff in your mind, right?
whatever. I
Well,
couldn't at the time. I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean,
meaning,
they were
meaning
eating-
that the insurance is going to eat it up, and they're
Maybe.
going to get.
maybe, but I think as a law enforcement guy myself, we understand right and wrong, right? If I need to go to the Dodge dealer and get the F5050, the biggest baddest truck on the thing, so I can plow through roadblocks and protect my guys by knocking things over, fine. That's an operational need.
Right.
I don't need to go and go get the most expensive Cadillac and fill it with TVs,
Right.
And
No,
roll. And they were going to the casinos and going in the basements where they had the freezers and taking shrimp and lobsters.
Oh.
And that was what we actually had for dinner several nights, was because we were in we slept
Interesting.
in a parking garage. We slept in a parking garage on the ground, the oil stains.
Yeah.
But the cops were there too, and they made gumbo and jambalaya, and it was all this stuff. And it took time to understand what was happening. It was like all this stuff is just showing up, and I was like, oh no, they're just going over to Walmart and grabbing whatever they need.
Interesting.
And it's not that I'm downing it if it needs to happen. So I still have the theory as a law enforcement guy, the second a major emergency happens, you need to send your law enforcement to all of the main food supply spots and hold it, right? This is food for the masses. We're going to provide meals. If you don't protect it, it's going to be looted, right?
Sure.
But so it needs to be protected. You send the cops to Costco, to Sam's Club, to the BJ's, to all these warehouses. You need to secure that stuff. But this was outside of that realm, right? And it bothered me, and I had to take that attitude with me and say, okay, I'm now back in Vegas. These are the preps and the plans that I have to put in order. And for a while, I worked with Water Reclamation District here, the water that we take from the lake over a mountain into the valley. We purify the water and put it into the system. Now, I know for a fact that if the power goes off, the grid goes down, there's an EMP, whatever, there will be no water in this valley almost immediately, right? So if you're not understanding that this is an untenable situation for 2.6 million people, right? There's one of those top threes: air, water, shelter. Right? If you don't got water, this is a bad spot. So my preps are not for hunkering down. My preps are for leaving right away. Not as in
with
like
the 1,000-mile range on your rig. I mean, that kind of gives you a lot of options.
And even if I'm only a half tank, I have 100 gallons sitting in my backyard. It's diesel. It's in the actual military jugs, locked up. And so I do this because I understand that is in military planning backwards. If I don't do that, everything else can't happen. Nothing else can happen. Man. Right. So China's my worst. I worry about it daily. Just absolutely just daily. I worry about them.
Well, and we had talked about that earlier too, about the find that was in California. And it's the chemical warfare, the biological facility that China is sponsoring and supporting right there in California. Yeah. It happened in the last 24 hours. So, I mean, these sometimes these things are like real world, like the what ifs don't become what ifs anymore. It's what are you going to do about it?
Right. Yeah. And there's times when some people in my family kind of just put the head into the sand and they're like, oh, yeah, nothing's happening.
They're like, I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, why is talking about China politics? I'm like, well, that's a threat. Everybody's worried about Russia, China too. So
we've created our own issues in Ukraine and Russia. That's again a whole nother topic.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
God, I mean,
but when you talk about preparedness, you must. One of my latest videos was tips and tricks on how to survive through a nuclear strike. Right? People don't prepare for that anymore. Right? This is a common issue.
Interesting you would say that, because I had the conversation with my daughter and Danny about this whole scenario where, like, what if you see a nuclear mushroom cloud in the distance? Because we said where I live, I'm 20 minutes away from JBLM, and we're probably about 25 miles from a naval facility, the sub facility, and then you have the shipyard.
They have nukes, so they're gonna get hit.
Yeah,
they're gonna get hit.
All of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, we got bases strewn all through Washington, right? And they all have some sort of strategic. So even McCord is one of those things where their capability is to move troops.
For sure.
I
left for war through that base.
What's right next to McCord? Fort Lewis.
Yeah.
What's Fort Lewis got? They got
Special Forces,
82nd Region Battalion. They have the First Special Forces Group. They got all kinds of like niche things that they got. I could go on and on and on. Anyway, point being is that
You have to be
if there was a mushroom cloud that happened in our vicinity, it's going to be very close. So I had this conversation with my daughter. I was like, what would you do? You know, and they don't teach it in schools.
No, they don't.
Not anymore.
You know,
used to.
Talking about preparedness.
Used to.
You know, having a soft level 3 armored
Body armor
in my daughter's.
There's one in my bag.
In my daughter's backpack.
School shootings, you have to.
Yeah.
My kid gave my kid one too.
I'm like, you can wear it on your back and you can
Did
run.
you really?
Oh yeah, Sedonia.
It's in his backpack?
No, Sedonia had one when she was in high school.
Yeah, okay.
She had a plate, a soft plate inside her pack.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And
you put it to your front and you just keep down. You know, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
She still uses it.
Isn't that crazy to have those kind of conversations with your kids? And,
But it's a different world. It's a
totally
different world, and you have to think about those things, right? Well, we could go on and on for all night and into tomorrow, but the thing is we, as long as we're on the same.
Have we gone into tomorrow?
Not yet.
Almost.
We're 40 minutes away.
We're close.
But the thing is like we're all on the same wavelength when it comes to teaching our families to stay together and what to look for, right? So like you just said, you have to have that conversation. And when I bring that type of stuff up with my wife, I said, hey, have you seen my new video with the nuclear stuff? And she's like, no. I'm like, I need you to watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that's not a topic that you're interested in, but you need to soak some of this in and understand that under that couch is plastic wrapping, duct tape, and staple gun for those 3 windows, and then under this is for those 4 windows.
And again, and you guys out here in Vegas, you guys got Area
Nellis.
51. Yeah, at Nellis, you guys got all kinds of fun stuff out
Especially
here.
now with all that new news about the aliens and stuff.
We've already known about that stuff for years. Anyways, so is there anything you want to hit before we wrap this thing up?
I think we pretty much covered so many angles.
So many.
Yeah,
angles,
going into
yeah.
anything else would just be a
I think we're kindred spirit. I think if I make it up north, I gotta connect up with you. I'm gonna be a bit north of you, unfortunately. I'm gonna be up in the Bellingham area myself, but there is a good chance in the next year or so. I'm waiting for those house prices to come back down. They went from $550 to $850, and I was like, I can't.
In what area?
In the Bellingham area.
Why would you want to live in Bellingham?
Because my job takes me to that northern region of this states.
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, so that's where I would make my money.
Got you.
Unfortunately, I do it here, but
yeah. I think you guys that was all over the place. But I'm very glad that we all got to connect and just chit chat like dudes and just drink and talk overall.
Yeah, it's been
That
I
was
like
awesome.
guy stuff.
Yeah, right.
The only thing we're missing is cigars.
I know. That'd be cool.
I'm already slow enough.
I know, right? Golly.
Oh, it would make this room cloudy.
It was
That's
nuts. It disappeared after like a few seconds. It looks cool. It disappeared.
He's in the age group of the vaping crowd.
Yeah, what happened to smoking cigarettes and doing manly stuff?
We smoked when we were younger, but it all went away.
I got an aloe watermelon splash.
What about?
Golly, I used to smoke.
One of my friends calls those douche flutes, by the way.
I'll do some
that I wanna
hookah
end.
with him, but not that.
Hey, shout out to the other bald guy in the room, or not in the room, but
he's not bald back there.
no, he's not. He's got a thick head of hair.
You gotta let me cut it one day, my guy.
Oh yeah,
Barber.
Nice mid fade, mid drop, whoop, 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 right back, whoop, 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 all over there. Oh, it'd be crazy. Flipper over comb, boy, I'd be having all kinds of fun.
Then he's gonna start getting girls. What's gonna happen with that?
No, can't have that happen.
Because then you wouldn't be available for. Are you a simp? Would you consider yourself a simp? Because how old are you?
20.
20?
He just said his birthday.
I was probably a simp, but
I was a boy. Weren't we all simps at some point?
yeah,
You
I think I'm
wised
just
up?
focusing on making money in the business now.
I like that. Well, you're good at what you do, so that's gonna get you chicks, right there. Don't simp though. It's hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
It's hard. It's
So
only hard
hard.
on you as a man.
No, it's hard not to simp in the beginning when you're that age. I'm talking about you that when you're 30 and up, 25 and up, you've seen it. You're like, okay, it's different. But when you're that age, it's hard not to simp.
You've never seen the bad.
The world, you haven't seen it, and the world is set up for you to simp. Like that's the way you see the TV shows. The guy's always the simp, and the wife's always the, like that's how you see the Disney show. That's how you are brought up, is to be a simp. It's very interesting that's the opposite. Usually, it's the opposite of what women actually want. Anyway. Yeah. Don't be a simp, my guy.
Yeah.
Hey,
nice haircut.
So I do want to plug that Sound of Freedom movie.
Okay.
Let's get back on that. I was gonna ask you if there's any closeouts you want to talk about.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen it.
When
Is it on
did you
Netflix
see
or
it?
something?
I saw it. Well, here's the
thing?
deal. I took my daughter and my adopted daughter / niece to this movie. And the whole premise of the movie was the child trafficking. Mm-hmm. Right? You had made mention of a guy trying to defend his daughter, who then got gang raped by 8 guys. Right? Mm-hmm. That's just something. As a father, that's infallible. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna go down fighting. You're gonna go down.
He went
fighting.
down fighting.
Right.
Went down fighting. But the thing is if you don't win, it's a lose-lose.
It is, but this is the Sound of Freedom was one guy's plight, and he worked for Homeland Security, and ended up saving over 72 kids from human trafficking, and I personally have dated a girl in Washington, and it's a story for another time. But long story short, she was sold into sexual slavery with her and her 3 siblings. And one guy went crazy, got deported. The other 3 are still here, to include the girl that I dated. And the impact of that pedophilia is just a crazy, and I know this is probably a super heavy subject right this second, but the impact of that is just crazy to think about, because like the first night I spent with this girl in her house, she was just in a different world, like PTSD. We can relate to PTSD in a military sense.
Right. But
imagine if you're at 2.5 years old, you're traumatized from that point on in your life. And then to have a quasi-normal life after that, there's no normal. No. So my point is, to the viewers of this podcast, is go see that movie. Take your kids. Let them know that, hey, there are bad things in the world, and the fathers that we are not to degrade you or to make you feel like we're controlling you. It's because we love you, and then we have a vision for our family to make it the best that it can be.
Amen to that.
Amen. Yeah.
I like that. Kyle, anything we close out with?
Yeah, no, it's a powerful thing, right? So sometimes in today's society, we are in a weird situation where it feels like we have to bend to our wives and what society wants from us. And I've pushed back many times, and I think it's my goal to protect my family in the way that I feel it's necessary, not what's, they're like, oh, you should have an IRA and that's protecting your family. You got to have some extra insurance. Well, my insurance comes in a little bit different forms, and the time and the effort that I put into, I think it's important that we take a moment to think what's going to happen to your family if you fail. If you fail.
For sure.
So
little reflection.
Yeah, reflection, right? So, I've really enjoyed coming and hanging out with you guys. Thanks for getting me out of the house.
Right, I know. This is awesome.
Well, I'm out of state, so I don't know what it feels to be like out of the house.
I work hard 5 days a week, and this is one of those nights where I usually just sit on the couch.
It's nice.
I'd be asleep.
And contemplate what am I going to buy next?
All right, what prepping item can I buy?
Hey, well, this is the last little bit that I got.
Cheers.
So
I still
cheers.
got so much, but I'm going to do
Cheers to you guys, and
Cheers.
thank you for inviting me on this podcast. I really have enjoyed sharing my time with you
Oh,
guys.
man. All
Thank
right,
you.
you guys, with that, it's been another episode of Tamer Viking Podcast. I'm a little slurry at this point, but it was cool. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
brother,
Have a
back
good
there.
night.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
Peace.